update our vector database with a re-ranking system. And we're sharing with you what I'm learning every single day. And this is why, right? If you ask ChatGPT right now, what is the best podcast on affordable housing investments, you will get my podcast with my name upon it. But this is what we're doing, right? With generative engine optimization and learning how to rank yourself as the authority for a certain topic. This is what you need to learn to do. You need to learn to create a clone of yourself with all this knowledge just amassed that might be unique to you and your perspective and your tonality and your creativity. So how do you do it? Well, today I'm watching this video and with RAG agents, right? RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generative System. And what you're going to want to learn here is, okay, previously we had an agent that was receiving these messages as triggers, like, hey, go tell me something about Section 8, blah, 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 right? Or go tell me about something about plumbing, go tell me something about skincare. And now there is an additional portion of this where it's called a re-ranker. And the point of this re-ranker is, if you remember what we talked about yesterday, right? Yesterday we talked about how to create a vector database, how do you chunk out your data. And this video would teach you how you can take this text, you have to chunk it out, and then the embeddings model that we talked about will put it into different vectors based on what those chunks are. Now, what do you do if one of those, so let's say you ask a vector database and you loaded that vector database previously with all the rules about golf, right? About a game of golf. And you say, hey, what do I do if my ball goes out of bounds, right? And so it goes through and tries to figure out what's going on. And it tries to only pick one solution. However, with the re-ranker, what it does is going to give you three solutions, try to figure out what those options are, what the chunks are, and then try to rank them or score them based on the relevant scale, and then it gives you back your answer. So this re-ranker is the one that's going to take all these different options, put it into the top three solutions, give it to your agent, and then your agent makes a better determination on what's going on, right? Based on the relevant score. So this is the sort of workflow and N8N that you're going to be using to create a RAG agent. Then you're going to have this area where you're using and referencing the vector database, which is in Supabase. And this is what we talked about yesterday, right? How do you take all the knowledge that you've accumulated? Or you can pick and choose, hey, I really like what this person says. I really like what this person says. This is the best from this world. This is the best from that world. And this is how I bring together all the lessons that I believe are the most valuable. And good job, Soleil. Where'd it go? Yeah, you made a phone call? That's so cool. I love it. And then what we're going to do is there's this other section down here where you are vectorizing your document, which is really interesting, right? So they might download the file from a Google Drive doc, which I'm having my team do right now. Pia for my team is essentially grabbing all the transcripts from all of the properties, I mean, all my past podcasts, and extracting them, and then want to put it into Supabase afterwards. So this is how we're using an agent now. As long as I'm loading all my transcripts properly, which I'm doing some cleanup right now on it, that's how I create a clone of myself. All right. So this is the very, very interesting part. So this is just him. Nate's just demonstrating like how do you actually do it. Nate's a great teacher. And this is right here. You can kind of see this is the vector database in Supabase. And you can kind of see, hey, rule one, rule two, rule three. But the problem is if you load it up linearly, you see how rule three has like two different lines because it's sometimes there's rule 3A, rule 3B, rule 3C. So there's all these different items. So then you got to figure out, well, how do I actually chunk it out with metadata? And this is what we're talking about yesterday, right? This is what you saw me doing just a couple of days ago, where I was going through all my podcasts. I'm like, okay, this podcast was about affordable housing, about real estate development, about entitlements. This podcast was about Section 8, affordable housing investments, and single families, right? These are the type of categories that I have to go through to make sure I'm doing a good job of truly tagging my data correctly, right? Because that creates a better experience for your AI agent, especially when it's going into your database to figure out what is the right thing to pull out, what is the right thing to do. Okay. And this was just a really great example. So I share this with you because I hope you take this skill seriously. I know this might look intimidating, but it's actually really not that bad. You're really just tagging a lot of things, right? Let's say you are a let's say you are a plumber, and you can determine, hey, these types of questions are for residential type of properties. Or maybe you say, hey, this is about water heater questions, right? This topic is about toilet problems. There's so many different ways for you to segment this data that you can apply it towards other businesses. Let's say you have a skincare business. You might say, hey, this data or this type of response or this type of knowledge is for facial skincare. This type of response is for nighttime routine, midday routine, daytime routine, morning routine. This type of data is for dry skin on the arms, right? This data or this type of question or this type of information is relevant for acne, as an example. So that's how I would go out building out that vector database for your specific business. So, what's the point? Why do you want to do that? You want to be able to take whatever you're doing, build the authority, and just go out there and provide so much information, so much value out there to the world that no one can ignore you. And that's how you become an authority in your space. That's how you can show up on ChatGPT. When someone asks you, hey, what is the best plumber in Orange County? What is the best plumber in San Diego? What is the best skincare spa or med spa in this location? And you want to come up and you come up and show up in ChatGPT when you are consistently providing information and you are being associated with that information. All right. I hope this was helpful, everybody. I try to make it as relatable as possible to everything that you're doing, not just affordable housing, but I want to build this out in front of you live and also share with you just what I'm learning every single day. Because all it takes is for you to, if you just learn 18 minutes a day for 365 days a year, you would be better at a skill than 95% of America. So it's not that hard. Just spend 18 minutes a day learning a little bit more about it and then really isolating, because I really don't like it when people just say AI, AI, AI. Well, how are you using it? What I recommend doing is just taking your knowledge, cloning yourself, and going out to the world and using the human in the loop workflow that we talked about just a couple of days ago and answering people's questions, because that's how you become valuable, because you are offering information, a service to go out there and help other people. All right. All right. I hope you all have an amazing Thursday. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 651. Have a good one, everybody.